Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the very first launch event for the newly released anthology, Dark Matter Women Witnessing, Dreams Before Extinction. Thanks so much for joining us in this moment of insanity, at least in the US, a moment Caroline Casey has called the devolutionary nadir of our rogue species. Our hope is that this hour and a half together will help you feel a little bit less insane. It was actually that feeling of insanity that brought the journal Dark Matter Women Witnessing into being in the first place in 2014. As I wrote in the first editorial, this journal owes its existence to bad news, specifically the increasingly brutal toll human civilization is taking on this earth and her non-human creatures. The fact is, the news about the climate and about extinction rates was already very bad at that time, which helps to explain the experience we had as editors in relation to the material we were reviewing, beginning with issue 1, which appeared in November of 2014. It all spoke so powerfully to the present moment. We were actually gobsmacked to see how much it did. By we, I mean my co-editors, myself and my co-editors, Kristen Flintz, and Bergeron and Gillian Gosling. I really lucked out with my editorial team. Together, we not only made the selections for the anthology, which were often excruciating because each of us had to let go of pieces we desperately wanted in there, but we also created a poetic structure for the book. And we organized the material by way of theme and register. Our publisher, Reese McLaughlin, was also a dream to work with, and they helped to make this, and especially Reese and Gillian Gosling helped to make this a very beautiful book, both inside and out. In addition to bad news, as I wrote in my first editorial, the journal Dark Matter Women Witnessing owes its existence to the councils of women writers, dreamers, and visionaries with whom I've been sitting in council since 2004. And yeah, it's been a long time now. Gatherings in which dreams were our main source of guidance and understanding. These gatherings were all of them convened by Deena Metzger, and the journal would never have come into being without her, which is why I asked Deena if she would agree to deliver opening remarks today. And I'm so pleased she said yes. The subject of dreams brings me to the subtitle of the anthology, Dreams Before Extinction, which is stolen, but stolen with permission, from Iranian artist Naeemaeh, whose painting you see on the cover of the anthology, and who will be our first reader this evening. Dreams Before Extinction was the title of an exhibition of her work that is also a book of her paintings. Everything about these paintings felt deeply resonant with our mission, as the dark matter in our title gestures not only to the bad news and the dark times, but also to the realm of mystery, the unknown, and dreams. So the readers you'll be hearing tonight are all reflected in the very first section, collected in the very first section of the book, entitled To Witness, Seeing in the Dark. Like all section titles, this one is drawn from pieces in the section, To Witness and Seeing in the Dark. Both of these go to the very essence of what this journal is about. So Naeemaeh will be our first presenter with a display of her paintings and writings that go with them. She'll be followed by Miriam Greenspan, Christine Holland Cummings, and Deena Metzger. After the readings, we'll go into a 10-minute breakout room. And the readers in the second set will be Patricia Rice, Lenore Wilson, Nancy Seymour, and Alex Eisenberg. And now I'm very happy to hand this over to Deena Metzger.
In my dream last night, I came in from the place on the land where the writer in my last novel, La Vieja, A Journal of Fire, sat vigil night and day, scanning the hills and grasslands for fires and offering prayers as I just did on behalf of dark matter and its mandate to bring vision to these burning times. In the dream, this reading was just beginning, and Lisa and Kristen were both visible and vital in their windows. But also in my imagination, we were seated chatting as we had been together in a circle when dark matter leaped out of Lisa's brain into life. Then I realized that Lisa was also standing next to me, and I called to her online. As we spoke electronically over the distance that is between us now, I touched Lisa on her shoulder. She was here, fully present, in the flesh, living, smiling. Your spirit is here, Lisa, I said. She is real. I can feel her. Your spirit is here. That was the dream. All night we connected, the dream also suffused with obsessive repetitions of the many names of Navajo clans, such as the Bear People, the Saltwater People, the Mud People, the Bitter Water People. I imagine these came so that I would have the energy to transmit the depth of our alliance with earth and spirit, which is at the very heart of dark matter and the gift it offers to the world. That original moment of conception was in response to call together, a gathering in a building, a temple on land that Nora Jameson and Alan Johnson tended. Lisa and Kristen were there, and so were many of the writers in this anthology. Here are some of the words that inspired us at that time. Reimagine and revision language and literature. Restore and piece together the broken, burned shards of once vital histories. Dare to know what we know, to listen to the ancestors and the future, to the dreams and the signs, old syllables and unborn orations, bird song, whale song, and howl, the glorious and tormented recitations of wind, water, light, and earth. Bring together a luminous grammar of connection to survive these times. These words came as we began to struggle with the terrible truth of the Anthropocene and global warming, which has developed into climate collapse. When dark matter emerged into the light, the left margin showing a stunning, terrible image of living trees turned into lumber. This week, the POTUS announced the intention to log the national forests, even or especially old growth. If it occurs, it will be an act of murder, a crime against humanity, ecocide. Dark matter manifested to meet such times. It participates wholeheartedly in what we have come to call literature of restoration, a genre of writing created to reverse extinction. Now, as an extension of this, I want to announce here challenging the limitations of sci-fi and climate fiction, or cli-fi. We will launch e-fiction or earth fiction so that all writers will recognize the infinitude of earth as the bedrock of creativity. Yes, dark matter gathers writers so deeply grounded in community, earth, and spirit that vision springs from it in wild green growth, as you will hear tonight. This is not a happenstance collection of what was published one year or another. Every piece is in heartfelt relationship to every other. And so a culture forms. And when there is a culture, there is meaning and ritual and life. There is possibility. There is a future. For myself, I dedicate my participation to our future descendants and those of the more than human beings, that they may know the beauty and wisdom that we have gathered to praise and preserve. I thank the ancestors and the spirits who have been with us from the beginning.
I'd like to begin my reading by expressing my gratitude to Lisa and the Dark Matter Woman Witnessing editorial team for giving me the opportunity to speak with you, and to Paul Simonin and Percival Press, who published Dreams Before Extinction in 2013. Dreams must be shared, but so must the nightmares. That's ultimately what nature is, the light within the darkness as much as the darkness within the light. To be the moon is a given, but it's no less to be the dark forest where tiny organisms can illuminate the soul. The moon falls 1,000 times. The painting on the cover is my tribute to the Persian leopard's mythical wish to be above the moon. I put many moons on the path in the Hyrcanian forest, the habitat of the critically endangered Persian leopard, carrying his body on my shoulder and returning him to the forest he came from. This work from the series Mina and Leopard is inspired by the story of Mina, a rural girl who befriended a leopard around 150 years ago in Kandalus, northern Iran. Witnessing the Hyrcanian forest where I'm originally from vanishing before my eyes due to rapid development was unbearable. I needed to reach out to those who could make an impact. The Dreams Before Extinction series is the effort of a 25-year-old me who wanted to communicate to my family the grief for the loss of endangered species and the landscapes I could barely explore as a child for only a very limited time each year. I selected 12 species from the IUCN Red List and created 12 visual narratives. All the backgrounds in my paintings were photographed in habitats specific to the species depicted. The traditional outfits I'm wearing are also specific to the ethnic groups that coexist with those animals. I wanted to address how these ethnic cultures were deeply informed by the geographical features, flora, and fauna. I borrowed rituals, folklore, and oral history and combined them with my childhood memories to create a multi-layered narrative woven into the landscape. Unlike myths and biblical stories, folk narratives have not yet ascended to the sky, only to later descend from it. They usually occupy a space between earthly life and fantasy. Some of them are already departing toward their spiritual realm, but are not yet fully uprooted. I like to stay with the land. I think it's important to embrace what's around us with all of our hopes and fears, to look at what is happening out there right before our eyes, here on earth, and at this very moment. I'm still waiting for Omid, the Persian name for hope, the very last Siberian crane of the Western population, to arrive this November. I sent him off in a painting back in 2011, and he has not been spotted anywhere on Earth since 2022. Still, we must always keep dreaming, even if hope never returns home.
Thank you, Lisa, for your vision, Kristen, Gillian, and Anne for putting this book together, to all of you for contributing to this important work, and of course to Deena for inspiring us. I will be reading from Seeing in the Dark, the first essay in the first issue of Dark Matter in 2014. The essay is about the prophetic power of dreams in my life, forged in the cauldron of my heritage. as a Jewish descendant of Holocaust survivors, and strengthened by motherhood in connection to a first child who died in infancy and another who is a gifted seer. It is about how motherhood at the extreme was my initiation into shamanic ways of knowing, about how we carry dreams of the world in a time of ecocide, how our dreams can illuminate the past, the present, and the future, and how these dreams and visions bring gifts that come to us when we know how to see in the dark. What I will read did not appear in the published book, but was the opening to the original essay in the Dark Matter journal. It is a poem called Dreamkeeper that documents some of the prophetic dreams and visions that I have experienced since the 1970s, which have, if anything, become more relevant in the world in which we live now. Dreamkeeper. 1. The taste of chaos in the early morning rises in my mouth, an acrid mix of iron casings, blood, and salt. Rows of houses collapse in dust, rusty shanties, rib-marked refugees, poke in the rubble for lost children. Whole cities fall into the sea. I run through outdoor markets, gunshots at my back, fly down stairwells stained with blood, jump on ships, on trains, trying to evade every kind of last catastrophe. Fire blast, fathomless floods and quakes, all-out attack by a faceless force that cannot be escaped, rape as an act of war. A skull neatly sliced in half with a machete, like a melon. On top, the open, dead eyes. On the bottom, the voiceless scream. 2. I saw the towers fall before they fell. They toppled down in one fell swoop. I ran to call my agent as if there was still some time left to be normal. I dreamed the virus before 1981, before Kaposi's. I couldn't speak of it to anyone. I dreamed the seasons out of joint. Winter, summer, spring, then fall, all disordered. The sun's too bright and casts its light, a nauseating yellow, on a toxic world. The phrase climate change had not yet been invented. 3. Perhaps it is the destiny of every human being to learn to live with catastrophe, while only some dream like Cassandra as a warning, dreams that show up in the morning news, the stains of history that will not be removed. The eye of the dream is not an eye. I am not the dreamer, nor are you. The dream itself searches for a fertile place to break through. 4. With no protective skin, she takes in everything, her eyes wide black holes of innocence. I fear she's gifted with a burdened legacy. The guns of night shattering her mornings propel her to questions of theodicy. Mommy, why do people do bad things? Why does God allow it? They say she's mentally disabled, but I know better. She's a shaman of the ancient secrets, dreamkeeper of the sacred archive of human pain and strife. I suspect she's one of the 36 hidden tzaddiks called the Lamed Vav, who preserve the world through their oversized capacity for tears, who justify humanity in the eyes of God. 5. In dreams, I am awake, pulled down, then thrust suddenly upwards, panting into morning, amazed that I'm still here, and the world outside my curtained room stays put. At night I see what my mind refuses in the light. I find the gifts the spirits give to those who see in the dark. Gentle wolf guides my steps across the rough terrain. Bright-eyed snake, sleekly striped red and black, shows me how to dance around the living tree. Tawny leopard with the golden eyes sits steadily at my window, teaching me to sit with fear and make it my ally. These gifts the spirits bring in dreams to help me make my life an offering instead of a scream. Thank you.
So I want to say, first of all, it's really an honor to be included in this anthology with all of these amazing writers who are diving deep into the important matters of life, of everything, of the world around us. This poem is in the first section, which is, there's a lot of dreams in the first section, a lot of seeing in the dark. And I think a poem is a dream, which makes it. And this poem came to me almost not in a dream, but it felt like a dream. In the summer of 2017, just after the first Trump administration had started. And it felt like things just kept getting darker. As time went on, he was putting children in cages on the border, and lots of other terrible things were happening, and it has only gotten worse this time. So I think this poem is more relevant than ever. It borrows a little bit from, or pays homage to, I guess, a little bit, an amazing poem by Paul Celan, Celan, called Todesfuge, or Death Fugue. Specifically the translation by John Felstener, the late great translator and poetry critic, who lived here in my neighborhood in California, was taught at Stanford. I really hope that you can look up and read Todesfuge. I think it is one of the great poems of the 20th century in a way. And one more thing to know about this poem is that there are two voices. You'll hear both the voice of the speaker and then the voice of those who are trying to oppress and sort of other the speaker and people like the speaker. So how to go on when it keeps getting darker. Open the flashlight of your mouth and illuminate something. You'll know what. It's yours. It rises out of those shadows cast over your own life. The ones that have carved themselves into dark scars tattooing your mind. Or choose a shadow thrown over another, one of the many advancing now, like Godzilla's over Tokyo, growing bigger as the monster reaches the outskirts of the city. State your name, please. State your nationality, please. Speak your true name. Say it over and over. Make a song of it. Tag it on walls with a can of paint. Feel the letters shape themselves in the dark. Do not stop saying it, even when they stand you up and shoot you full of holes. When you're dead, let your blood speak your name. Why do you come here? Why do you invade? Carve your teeth into keys to open all the cages. Melt down the good solid fat of your body to slick the ground under the soldaten's boots. Throw in your bones to break their grinding machines. Stop up their gears with your ash-dark hair. Is it your intention to rape, murder, deal drugs, be an animal, infest? Make a blanket from your skin and drape it over the last of the species. Hide them in your lungs, your spleen, your gallbladder, wherever you have a space they can shelter until the murdering is over, until the murderers are over. Do not forget the rose, her soft heart, her thorn. Do not forget fragility. Keep it somewhere safe, at the bottom of Lake Tanganyika or the top of Mount Denali. Someday you will want it again. Thank you.
Living by dream. Once people lived according to the dream spirits. Then the church, the state, and later science taught the people to distrust and disregard them. Attending the dreams in the old ways was prohibited, and the priests and secular rulers persecuted dreamers. Learning to live by dream again restores the ways that honors the spirits and realigns human activity within a web of relationships. The sacred ritual of the Eleusinian mysteries was practiced in Greece for 1,500 years until 396 CE, when the Christian Roman Empire suppressed them. The mysteries were extensive ritual and narrative events. During the mysteries, hundreds of people at a time walked the 19 miles from Athens to Eleusis, engaging in complex sacred activities on the way. My consciousness was awakened to the old ways of dreaming through the means of a play I was writing that drew increasingly on the spiritual context and intent of the mysteries. The writing of the play and studying the mysteries pulled me down into the sacred underworld and the realm of dreams, as the mysteries were meant to do. At this time, I was working with an improvisational theater group. Our work led to the development of different characters who began to create relationships among themselves, and the play, Dreams Against the State, was born. Each of the contemporary characters was based on a figure from the mysteries, so that the audience could see that we can each live the intensity and passion of divine energies if we allow ourselves our real lives. In the play, the contemporary characters were drawn together underground through the power of dreaming at a time when dreaming was illegal. When one of the dreamers was captured, the dreamers had to develop the ritual means to retrieve her from the upper world and restore her body and soul. Theater director Stephen Kent and I reenacted the mysteries in 1980 and twice again in the 90s for the first time since 396 CE. We began the long ritual at the cave of Dicte, where Zeus had been born on the island of Knossos. As we descended the narrow spiral of stone stairs, each mystic carried a lit taper to illuminate the way down into the dark as we found the entrance into the ancient ways of the dream. More than 40 years later, the necessity is even greater to live the dream, to live by dreams and the values they teach when the dreaming community is aligned with spirit. An age of unprecedented brutality is upon us, as ongoing violence is directed against humans, animals, the earth, and the spiritual life. One can argue the many reasons for the agony of these times, but the phenomena of urbanization, militarism, AI, media saturation and control, and the forces of economic, political, and social domination have left few, if any, safe havens for any beings. If the Empyrean of technology and power has its way, everything may die. In the old days, dreams came to individuals on behalf of the community. Such dreams have the potential to reveal and drive the essential shifts of consciousness and behavior that can save the earth. An important dream came to me in 2012. In the last scene, brown shirts, Nazi Germany stormtroopers are marching down the street. Immediately, it is conveyed to me, we have 24 hours to leave Europe. The last lines translate quickly into urgent instructions. 24 hours to leave European mind. Immediately afterwards, I received teachings for transforming our lives that are called the 19 Ways to a Viable Future for All Beings. I was given to understand that living according to these ways allows the practitioners to change their minds, leave Euro-American thinking, and live in ways that do not lead to extinction. After receiving the 19 ways, I had a dream that changed my life again. I have won a contest 3 times that I have not entered. The award is a trip to New York for a year, where I will be educated and trained so that after the year, I will be an Indigenous woman. I understood this dream as a mandate. I am to apply myself to becoming wise. I am taken back to all our origins to begin again on a different trajectory. I must discover how an Indigenous woman would think and act in these times. I have taken on these instructions far beyond 100 days. I have entered into a different way of living. Before I speak, before I act, in the face of any important decision, I ask myself, how would a wise Indigenous elder, free of the great damage of the ongoing conquest, act? I model my life accordingly as best as I can. Over time, I see my mind changing and my ways of living as well. Living as an Indigenous elder calls one to put the community and earth before oneself. It means one is loyal to and committed to the future. It means we respond out of relationship, not out of self-interest. It means alliance, not competition, harmony, not conflict. It means we know Earth and all her creatures are alive. This has come to me from the dreams on behalf of the community. They present the dilemmas we are facing and teach us, as they once did, how to live.
Thank you.
Okay, so without further ado, we are going to move on to our next readers. The first of them is Patricia Rice, whom I haven't even
Yes,
seen. Where are you?
I just got here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I had some trouble getting here, but
Oh,
I'm so
no.
glad you're here,
here I
Patricia. I was
am.
just
Great. So you're here now.
I am, seem to be.
Wonderful.
Hi, Lisa.
And first, before you start, is it okay with everyone if we do hit record now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay by me.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Hmm.
So this is now being recorded. Okay, great. So Patricia, you're on.
Okay. So you want to hear my pages? You want to hear what I wrote?
As long as it's about 5 minutes.
Well, you can shout me out.
And everyone else has got to mute themselves, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I wrote this piece called Over the Edge. So almost 40 years have passed since the James Bay Project, Canada's massive effort to generate electricity for energy-hungry Canada and the United States. At the time, the James Bay Project was one of the biggest environmental rearrangements of land and water undertaken on the planet. Hydro-Quebec dammed powerful rivers and flooded over 7,000 square miles of land in the northern Quebec wilderness, altering the landscape and its inhabitants. The Innu and Cree natives and the wildlife changed it forever. The consequences of this massive dislocation of water, land, people, and all other sentient beings for the sake of powering an energy habit has yet to be truly calculated. There are, however, events and stories that give testimony. One writer writes about how stymied Hydro-Quebec was in the fall of 1984 when the electricity collected in the form of water had not yet sold. Stored in a large, already corroding reservoir, they needed to let the water spill before rains caused a disaster. So they began to release the water in the Canapescu River. Meanwhile, torrential autumn rains began, and the combination of spillage and rainfall created a monstrously swollen river. The Innu protested that their hunting camps on the shores of the river had been washed away and demanded the Energy Corporation reduce the spilling, which they did on September 28th. The effect of the reduction, however, was not yet felt 400 kilometers downstream at Limestone Falls, the last of a series of narrow, steep drops over which the Canapescu River plummets on its way to the sea. On September 30th, 1984, 2 days after the Energy Corporation reduction, more than 10,000 George River caribou travel on a traditional migratory route toward their winter range. One of the biggest herds of large migratory mammals anywhere in the world, they are at their peak, their fittest and finest and fattest. The young, born in mid-June, are still traveling with their mothers, and the big males, fitted out with new antlers and their best pelage for the mating season, are soon to come. The caribou migrate as a herd for reasons of security. Their numbers are a protection against known predators, the wolf pack. This herd has undoubtedly encountered weather hazards before: an early snowstorm, torrential rain. Because they are natural swimmers, really equally at home on land and water, swimming across a body of water rather than walking around it is not uncommon. But rivers require calculations. A river can change in its nature quickly. Early snow melts and heavy rains create a different river condition than usual. A rushing mix of slush and ice, a wider, deeper, swifter moving body of water, a body enlarged and swollen, eager to discharge itself into the arms of a larger body of the ocean. Assessing a river's temperament is a caribou's necessity. The map in the mind of the caribou has been laid down for millennia. They understand they will reach their migratory destination sooner or later. The decision to leap into moving water and risk being swept away by the force of a raging, roiling river cannot be undertaken lightly. Sometimes the herd chooses to parallel the river until it arrives at a more inviting place to cross. But on this day, there is no inviting place on the river, nor is there any herd memory for the trickery of the two-legged predator with his infernal tinkering. Approaching the time-worn crossing spot, they encounter an unrecognizable river, grotesque and distorted from carrying a burden of natural and unnatural waters. This is something new. Limestone Falls has been interfered with to such an extent that their great collective intelligence cannot decipher the mortal danger. I wonder, do the powerful lead caribou telegraph their immediate terror to those pushing on them from behind? They're used to communicating this way, sending messages of stop and go, rest and resume, bunch up and spread out. And those in the lead count on the ancient pathways laid down for past generations. But this time it is all too confounding. The river's voice, lost to itself, is untranslatable. There is no time to assess. Their messages are drowned out. Pushed from behind, the lead caribou have no choice but to enter the raging torrent. The rest follow. What terror and terrible frisson shudders through the great body of this herd of noble animals as they plunge in. What heart-pounding, soul-piercing cries emanate, mother to child, mate to mate, sister to sister, as they push over the edge, singing their death songs. Within 4 hours, almost all are swept over the falls, smashed on the rocks, their corpses strewn over the banks and beaches downriver. What are we to make of this great community of magnificent animals tumbling on top of each other to a collective death, their instincts so betrayed? And did every last one go over the edge? Are there caribou survivors who now have this terrible tragedy embedded as a haunting memory? And the river, does she remember the day her waters were so forced that she grew cruel and unknowable? The day she unwillingly wiped out a whole herd of caribou? Certainly the Cree and the Innu do not forget. The Cree poet, Margaret San Cromedy, who lives in the St. James Bay region, writes this poem.
Patricia, we have
Yeah.
to, can you just wrap it up?
Yep.
It's been,
Okay, so then she writes this poem. Maybe I will just read the poem and then we'll have it. So she writes, in gray and blue, a happy river once, long ago. Times changed, struggles came. The courts agreed, damn the river for kilowatt power. The happy river was lost. It weeps now. It seeks golden sands. The Chisabee River, its soul calling. Here's the old people no more. Voices. The wind has tongues. A lady speaks meekly, a cry of terror. It's only the wind's voice, frightening my beating heart. Silent weeping, wind warning, voices of my elders. So, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was doing a whole thing on animals and I ran across this. I'd never heard about this. caribou crossing where they just all jumped off and were pushed from behind because they thought they'd done this forever. And so it's the consequences,
Right.
our need for electricity.
Okay. So
The unseen consequences, unheard of. I've never heard of this happening.
I know.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you, Lise.
Lenore, you're next. Don't forget to unmute when it's your turn.
Thank you. I want to thank Lise and who I've known for a while, and I see her as my mentor, and I'm sure she's a mentor to many. And I want to thank the editors and all my friends here. So I had written this prose poem in 2020, and things have rather changed. And I will read the notes after. It's rather quick, right? Yeah. The fire that nearly took us. The flames, the no, I will not go, no of wild broom and oats and wheat. The me, the mother who says, no, I will stay. This land is my womb, my children, this acreage of my mother's and her mother's, over 1,000 maternal acres, handed down and down, yes. But Mom, get in the car, get the cat, get the dog, get the photographs. No, I will stand right here with my cracked heels wrinkled and hurting as the deep, dry earth, October earth, deep creases of walnut shells. See, they have stained my palm. See, I will not. No, I say the last leaf. See how it hangs from the miracle oak. Why leave me, it says, and the bees with their seesawing grief on the wild rose. Now this is, no, this is, I will not go. Yet you must hear the winds, Mom. What winds? I have heard them like the coyotes in the middle of the night, when everyone's sleeping, when cattle low and their calves. No, mother, go. But the owls, my owls, yes, I know them too. The owls at dawn, they low, like the coyotes. Oh, yes, they all have their own oboes. I listen, I have given my milk in the bluest hour. A woman walking in the pale, pale darkness, rubbing beads of moisture from her bedside window, see me moving into the fiery woods with the sash of my kimono, opening, closing, catching the moon in my hand, holding in the light under the fishnet of stars as a moth flies across an old mare's flanks, so soft even I won't go. I have been awake when there is no one, when the bedside clock casts its minutes out. The flames, I see them and think of the orange-robed monk kneeling down in a billowed flame decades ago, backed up to a wooden brothel in a place called Saigon. Oh, my lay, half asleep on his bruised hands and knees, the things that keep me awake through the early hours, white hours, my house wrapped in its black armband, and the flames I can hear like mortar fire waking up the valley, my valley, while a circle of tomes lies like an open eye around my bed, and the rampant touch, the inflamed kiss. Oh, hot autumn night of gold leaf and sky. Oh, fires, you say the fires are here, like phantom jets that roll in the sun, making the sound of grief like the churning of rivers in winter. Oh, how we cling to each other. We who grew flowers to slide into rifle barrels, who danced in People's Park with incense tapers, when hope was a temple bell, when the folk songs began that rose from our lips. No, no, I say to you, as if it were my marriage vow, in sickness and the death, I will not go. That was in 2017 when there was a wildfire. And this is in Northern California, Napa. And so Lise had that poem in 2020. And so she asked for it in 2024. And because some things have changed, the fire took our ranch and our home, and my grandmother, it's a maternal ranch for 100 years. And so I wrote, we had escaped 2020, our ranch and house burned down. We had escaped other fires, but not the 2020 Hennessy fire, sparked on August 17th by a rare lightning storm that lapped near the eastern edge of our ranch, then veered east away from us, burning 50,000 acres with the overnight wind. The fire would later merge with others to become the LNU Lightning Complex fire, the third largest in California's history. We waited as long as we could, spraying down the log house multiple times and removing fallen branches from the perimeter. We had begged firemen to come and help us as we saw a gathering plume on the horizon, but they had too much land to cover. Additionally, they were ordered to go to the town of Vacaville, an hour away from us in rural Napa. At dusk, we were forced to leave, deciding to half sleep next to the corral in our sedan loaded with pets, quilts, bags of photos, memorabilia. We stayed under the 300-year-old oak that had watched the cattle for a century come and go. The next day, that giant oak fell right on that very spot that had given us a modicum of comfort. We live in town now, but my 95-year-old mom still lives in her old ranch home on the ranch. We cannot rebuild. We visit the land multiple times a week, but it is still very painful to return to where our family hill house once stood. And Lise has been there. So I met my mother and hiked with my mom, but
Yes, I did.
that's
Can't
what
believe
happened.
it's gone.
We visited the ranch today, so that was nice, but it is gone.
So
Fire.
our next, I'm sorry, everything's so rushed. Our next last two readers are going to be Nan Seymour and Alex Eisenberg. And you need to take the time you need to take. I think we plan to have a breakout room after, and I think that's going to be optional because we did say this would end at 8:30. But what I would like is after Alex finishes is for my co-editors to say a few words, and then we will go into the breakout rooms. Okay, so it's Nan.
All right. Thank you so much. What a privilege and just a deeply meaningful moment to be together with everyone in this room and to be part of this great communication. I'm reading today from a basin formed by an ancient sea. The remnant of that sea is 20 miles to my west and is now called Great Salt Lake. I'm going to just give a little context and then I'll read the poem. I also want to say thank you. There's several people in this room who really have amplified the work I've been doing with the lake and given support to my voice. And I see you and thank you. It's meant so much. Great Salt Lake is my teacher, my dear companion, and my imperiled neighbor. And the lake is also one of over 100 diminishing inland seas worldwide. and it's an essential refuge for 12 million migratory birds. I've lived on this land she made with her waves for over half a century. 3 years ago, and this is now 4 years ago, I heard a scientist, Dr. Bonnie Baxter, explaining the impending threat of losing this lake entirely due to human diversion. And like many listeners, I was rattled by the description of the perpetual toxic dust storm that would arise from the desiccated playa in the lake's absence. And around that time, my beloved mentor, who is here, Deena Metzger, encouraged me to begin listening to the sea herself. So I turned my broken heart in the lake's direction, which is this way. The lake's voice then came in dreams, and then a call to keep vigil on the shoreline for 40 days and nights in the winter of 2022. Not accustomed to winter camping, I was surprised by the invitation. Nevertheless, I borrowed a camper and moved myself to the water's edge to become a neighbor to microbialites, bison, and ravens. Once there, the lake prompted me to call others. And she beckoned us and we came, and over 1,000 people participated in these winter vigils on Antelope Island in the winters of 2022 and 2023, corresponding with the Utah State Legislative session. That was the lake's idea. So there we were. And then this year, just Friday, we finished the Vigil of 2024, which was similar to the Vigil of 2023. Again, with the lake's direction, we moved the vigil to actually the capital, Utah State Capitol, and daily did silent, reverent walks with great, beautiful cyanotype waves made from the rivers of this watershed. And we did those in the morning, and then in the evenings we would sing and dance and dressed as brine shrimp, like human-sized cardboard puppets we made, and birds, and I think representing maybe 25 different species actually, with the variety of puppets that were built in community. And this year we added 4 giant pelicans with 15-foot wingspans. They take 3 or 4 people to fly. They've been flying around the Capitol quite a bit. So those are the vigils, and they were very lake directed. And then the reason I know this is because I would not have ever imagined myself a puppeteer, if you ask me. Several years. There's so many things I've done that I would never have thought of myself. So very lake directed vigils. We just wrapped the 4th one. When the life of someone you love is at stake, you stay with them. And until recently, Great Salt Lake has provided a vital nesting ground for American white pelicans, and as many as 20,000 individual birds lived on an island called Gunnison Island on over 5,000 nests. But as we've continued to dam, dredge, and divert the waters, land bridges to this island have become exposed, allowing predators easy access. And in May of 2023, the last adult pelicans left their home, and in some cases, they were leaving behind flightless and defenseless chicks, so they left during breeding season. In 2024, very few of them, of the 10,000 probably at that point that left, returned, and we haven't yet been able to assess 2025. But essentially, this is a population in exile, and this poem that I'll now read imagines the exile from the pelican's perspective. Pelicans in exile. We fly high, we fly wide, we live on islands, we nest on the ground. Other birds hatch like colts, ready to run. Our children arrive pink-skinned and naked as yours. Every day we leave them in the care of the waves. We fly the lengths of the lake. We fly over tar seeps, fly over salt sea, glide over river water, fish until we have enough to feed them. Before nightfall, we return. When we fly high, we see the scar you made of a mountain. When we fly wide, we see the waters strangling in your tracks. We feel you pave over wetlands. We reel in the steaming from the smelter. We map the patterns of your poison. Since time before memory, we have slept within water's embrace. The place we called safe, you called Gunnison. We watched the sea diminish until the tide did not return. We witnessed the end of our protection. When four-leggeds crossed the land bridge, they came swiftly, all teeth. When teeth came, many of us left. For a while, some of us bore the peril and watched as foxes slaughtered our helpless children. In spring, the rest of us departed. When we left our nest for the last time, pink sand still glittered through the sticks. And though we have nowhere to go, we know this home is over. We left our young, we left our dead. We flew high, we flew wide, and we fled. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan. Okay, Alex, you are the last to present.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm so grateful to be here today and be part of this collection. Feel really honored. I am going to read two sections from my essay, Living at the Edge of Devastation, which is about living on the edge of a clear cut, right on the edge. Devastation respects no boundaries. Terry Tempest Williams, Refuge, which happens to be about the place Nan was just talking about. The owls left first, their haunting hoots receding night by night. Then, one day, I watched the birds flee from the noise of the machines. They took refuge near my roof before flitting across the road, further from the commotion. I thought of how the animals of the forest would have no way to know which direction was safest to go. No way of understanding survey markers or property lines, or where the edge of devastation might land. All they could know was, this place is no longer safe. I must leave. Witnessing the animals flee, I questioned the sanity in staying, but I stayed, and Grendel, my cat, stayed with me, and we kept walking the shrinking forest every night. Over the coming days and weeks, as I watched the forest recede, I had to continually seek new points of orientation. I would orient to one line of trees and then it would be gone. Each time, the whole familiar face of the place changed. I kept thinking I was somewhere that I wasn't, looking for trees that were no longer there. The edge had moved. It was still the edge, but a different edge. There was rarely a night that I wanted to go out on my walks. It seemed much easier to stay inside and watch a stupid show on my computer or read a book or just sleep. I kept forcing myself to go out because every time I did, I came back feeling more alive, even if that aliveness was manifest in grief or rage or confusion. Honestly, though, it was often joy. Regardless of my mental state, my body consistently felt better after walking barefoot through the forest. Even if my feet were frozen to the bone by the time I got back, I was always grateful I went. My cells would sing, and I always slept better afterwards. That is, until I didn't. I can't describe to you what it felt like to wake up in the early morning dark to bright work lights shining through the forest, through my windows and straight into my eyes as I rested in the sanctuary of my bed. I could see the lights were in a section of forest that was dear to me, though the company had agreed to warn me before they had cut any closer to the house. You might think, after my experience with the machine before, the obvious response would be to run away from the noise, or at least stay inside. But something deeply protective and instinctual came over me. When I heard the saw start, I was out the door before I could think, wearing some semblance of dress and careening through the darkness. The adrenaline stopped me short of running me into my death, but the man operating the machine took longer to see me than I expected. The blade arm swung too close to me, and he was mid-cut into a tree, one I knew well, before he saw me flapping my arms and screaming. He stopped the machine mid-cut. After a strange exchange where I sobbed and pleaded, and he told me, "I'm just doing my job squaring off this corner," the man agreed to move his work elsewhere for a while to give me time to say goodbye. An hour or so later, from inside my cabin, holding hands with a friend, I watched that place be erased. From then on, the company kept me diligently abreast of when they would be cutting along the property line. The morning it was finally going to happen, after weeks of delays due to snow and wind, I left early with Grendel, having decided to bring him back to my former home while they cut near the house. I was afraid he would run away from the noise as all the other animals had, or be trapped inside and scared. As for myself, I had originally wanted to witness and document the proper process from the property line. My friends urged me otherwise, so I retreated as well. Driving away in the dark, as the lights of the logging machines descended on the forest, I felt like a refugee fleeing the destruction of my home. On the day I returned, finding the rest of my forest fallen, I thought my body would be sucked through the ground. The force of grief was so heavy, so powerful. It was as if the trees themselves were what controlled the degree of gravity, and with their heavy bodies on the ground, it seemed nothing else could stand either. I crawled, gasped, wailed, screamed. Sounds I have never heard come out of any body came out of me. I felt as if I had lost limbs and lungs. I felt as if I had been broken into 10 million pieces along with the forest. And the sky had fallen, literally. To say it was the worst day of my life, to say much of anything about it for that matter, distorts the horror into something perhaps comprehensible, when in fact what I witnessed and felt was beyond comprehension or even sanity. Indeed, I went mad with grief. A few days into that madness, I found myself sitting barefoot in the January cold, picking up wedges of trees from the ground and trying to piece them together on their stumps, as if the clear cut were the world's largest puzzle. Like a child whose toy was broken, I just kept saying to myself as I cried, "I remember how the forest went. I can put it back together. I remember how these trees looked. I can fix this. I can fix this." I could not. Thank you. I wanted to be on that land today and I couldn't, but I brought this piece of the forest's heart with me. So she's with us too.
Wow. Thank you, Alex. That was an amazing note to end on, and I'm probably not the only one who's noticed that we've sort of come full circle because Deena brought up these latest orders regarding the forests in the United States. So here we are. I'm wondering if we could hear a little bit from my co-editors before I don't know if it makes sense to do, are there people who would like to do a last breakout room? We promised that, but I think first it would be good to hear from Kristen and Gillian and Anne. Kristen, you want to start?
I'll keep this brief because I want to be respectful of people's time, but I'm so thrilled to see so many faces tonight. Thank you to everyone who came. We wouldn't be Dark Matter without Lisa's vision, and we wouldn't be Dark Matter without the women who continue to witness and bring their whole hearts to their work. We wouldn't be Dark Matter without the community of readers who are loyal and devoted and continue to give us your attention and form this community, which has become a really essential part of my life. And it is such a privilege to serve your work. It is more essential than ever. Not only the work, but the community. So I'm so proud of the anthology and to have been a part of it. It feels like the timing couldn't be more perfect. So thank you to everyone who is here tonight and helped make the book and the journal for these last 10 years a reality.
Gillian, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Great.
I'm very moved, so I'm teary. Alex, I remember when I first read your essay, when you submitted it, and just the power of your writing, your raw writing. And I felt that way about so many of your pieces over the years that I've had the privilege of being a part of Dark Matter with Lisa and Kristen and now Anne on this anthology. I want to thank Deena, who is the I don't even know how to describe you, the angel of not just Dark Matter, but so many different projects. I was in one of your shamanic groups many, many years ago when I visited Topanga. And I want to say that I learned so much from each and every one of you. And what I learned is to have courage in the face of what is going on today and in 2014 and all the years in between and probably all the years to come of my existence. Perhaps I still have hope, but nonetheless, I want to say that I love the language. I'm just going to read Miriam, dreams that search for a fertile place to land. I pray that I be that fertile place, as so many of you are. To sit with our fears and make them our allies. I witnessed that in each and every one of your work. Your puppets, just imagine the 50-foot pelican puppet circling around Utah's capital. And I just wish there were puppets around all sorts of things to remind people of what really matters. And I feel that's what this anthology does. And in closing, I want to thank Lisa for inviting me into this process. And I want to thank Kristen and Anne, and also our publisher, Reese, who was amazing. This woman works, I don't know that she sleeps. And I wish she was here to experience this community. And I just want to, I drew a little caribou, Patricia. Whoop. I don't know if you can see it. It looks probably ridiculous, but it's a tiny, can you?
She drew a caribou.
I drew a little caribou to memorialize. That's, instincts so betrayed. Does the river remember the day that this happened? We talk about remembering in this community, and yeah, I'm glad we are remembering. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. How about Anne? Are you there?
I am here.
I haven't seen you.
Interesting. On my screen, Lisa, we are right next to each other. Editing is a two-dimensional activity. And what I feel like has happened for the book today is the beginning of an embodiment. Hearing the words in your voices completely ground into my being and my body the significance of each story, each narrative, each poem. And I just feel like we've created an entity that is just going to continue to grow and to expand and to evolve. And as much as I did and do carry with me the paintings and the stories and the trees and those caribou, and the pelicans. I feel like they have come completely alive in a whole new way. And I also want to say I have a great deal of gratitude for being a part of this community, because it brings forth the best of humanity. And this is what we need to bring forth on behalf of the earth, because that is what she is continuing to bring forth in this time for us. And thank you all for being able to pay attention to that and to take her lead with your words and with your actions and your art. So thank you so much.
Wow. You see what I mean about this team of editors? I mean, how lucky can a person get? It's just been a dream. So we
So,
need to end.
may I
Yes,
just one acknowledgement that I meant
yes,
to, but I didn't. I
yes.
want to. This is a journal. You know, it's women witnessing, but there are many men on this call today, on this Zoom call, and I want to honor each and every one for taking the time out of your day to be here with us, because we also need our men. So
True.
I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you so much.
Thank you for that. I agree. And I just want to say we can't do the thing. I've got to go rescue a cat for one thing. So we're going to end here. And I just want to say, if those of you who contributed have not yet gotten your book, there's a problem. So please write to me and I will write to the publisher to find out what happened. Okay. You should all have received your books by now. And the other thing I want to say is this is the first in a series, unless you live in Colombia like Juliana. Did you get yours, Julia? Okay. No, she did. Okay. So so this is the first in a series. So please come back, for there's going to be several more of these and we'll have more breakout rooms so you'll get to know each other in future events. But this was so wonderful. Thank you so much to our readers. And thank you to everyone who came to listen. And I hope there'll be more in the future. I hope to see you, many, many of you, the next time. Bye,
Thank,
everyone.
thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
See
you.
you in the next one.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you for the tears.
Ciao.
I
Hello,
need to know that
Suzanne.
they were real.